Well, so we look right off the bat there saying, after the Super Bowl, maybe, ramp some things up, and get them going a little bit here. I know I want to ask him, is there agreement on anything yet? What do we have going on that, because the sides have met at times, and I know one of the biggest concerns is maybe they're not meeting enough. So, we'll talk about that as well.
All right, is he back on there? It should be better now. All right, Kevin, go ahead. Kevin Mawae back with us. Go ahead, Mike, your question.
Kevin, have you guys come to any kind of agreement on anything at all yet, on some more minor issues?
Not particularly. I mean, the minor issues are the easy things to deal with. And
right.
Those the auxiliary, the outside the major bargaining issues that, like, a pocket of our lawyers and their attorneys will get together and start hammering out language and stuff like that. But, we're stuck on the major issues. It's the 18% ask back on players' salaries, the 18 games, and we're working through the rookie salary structure issue, and those are the main sticking points. The other stuff is once you get through the economics part of it, then figuring out all the other stuff is the easy part, and that's kind of where we're at right now.
Well, 18 games maybe is, maybe isn't an economic issue, right? I mean, I guess what I'm asking you is, are the players just steadfastly opposed to 18 games?
It's something that we've said in the past, and we'll continue to tell them, and we've said just recently as last week, we cannot sell 18 games to our players. We can't ask our players to play 2 more games without the long-term protection of better health care at the end of our careers. And so the 18 games is an impossible sell for us. So from our standpoint, it has nothing to do with the finances. It has everything to do with how does that make sense to the health and long-term care of our players, and it doesn't. From their side of the table, it adds another $500 million to the coffers. But, again, we're working through that, and to this point, we're kind of stuck at the point we were at in November, and we haven't made any headway in that issue.
So just so we're right, when you said it's an impossibility, but you're saying without long-term benefits, so basically it's negotiable, right? I mean,
yeah, everything's negotiable. I mean, everything's negotiable, but if you want us to sell something, you got to give us compelling reasons of why it makes sense to the players. With all the studies of concussions and the lack of long-term health care for our players at the end of our careers and things like that, we can't go ask our players to go and play 2 more games. And then on the fan side of it, imagine 2 weeks ago that the season just ended and we're still in the divisional round of the playoffs right now, because that's basically what would be happening. And it's a long enough season as it is for everybody involved, but you add 2 more games and the season just starts to drag on, and that's from the fan perspective, and we're also very aware of how they feel about it.
Kevin Mawae is with us. He's part of the NFL Players Association SchoolOfTheLegends.com initiative, which is an online community that provides fans with a social environment for interacting with more than 700 current and former NFL players. You can check it out again at SchoolOfTheLegends.com. DeMaurice Smith, who is the executive director of the Players Association, used the words "we are at war" in the New York Times last week. That is going to get a lot of attention, clearly. Roger Goodell took some exception to that language. I would ask you, what reaction do you get from fans? When fans walk up to you, they hear the rhetoric on both sides. What do fans say to you?
You'd be surprised. The fans are more in favor of where the players are right now. I think the fans understand that this is all owner-driven and management-driven. At least from my perspective, the fans that I interact with here in Nashville and when I'm traveling, things like that, the first thing I want to know is, are we going to play football next year? And my honest response is, I don't know. Is there going to be a lockout? We are preparing our players as if there's going to be one. And but then the very next line is, we're going to do everything we can to get a deal in place before the season of 2011 starts. And we've been pleasantly surprised to understand that our fans, especially the knowledgeable ones about football, know that this is owner-driven. The owners opted out. And if you ask the average fan that goes to the game maybe once a year, they'll tell you it's the owners wanting more money. And that's the perspective that we've gotten from most of the fans that we've talked to.
All right, Mike and Mike. Kevin, you know what? There's one other thing I really want to ask you. Can you hold on a couple of minutes, or do you need to go someplace? All right, because I want to get Kevin. We'll put him on hold, and Kevin, we appreciate it.
I have one more about this, and then we have something else we want to get to as well.
Again, he's part of this initiative, SchoolOfTheLegends.com. It's an online community where you can interact with more than 700 current and former NFL players. I want to ask him his take on the Jay Cutler thing.
Yeah.
Because Jerry Angelo, the general manager of the Bears, called out the union when he was calling out players for ripping his quarterback. And Jerry Angelo said,
I'm very surprised. I think it's crap. I thought they were a union.
And he went on from there.
Right.
But I'd be curious to hear Kevin Mawae, as the president of the Players Association, I'd be very curious to hear what his reaction was to all of these active NFL players. I'm not talking about Deion Sanders and Mark Schlereth.
The active players, certainly.
The active players ripping another active player under those circumstances. So we'll ask him his take on that. And we've got a little more on this here. Again, my sense of this is I'm not going to let this become a big story next week on our show, unless circumstances absolutely excuse me, demand it, because, let's talk about football. There'll be plenty of time to talk about all this other garbage.
I agree.
We'll do that, plus money can't buy you love, but what can it buy you? There's a sports reason why we're going in search of that answer today as well. We'll do that when we continue next, Mike and Mike.